What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. It is Friday, October 21st, and we have breaking news that went down right as the Cardinals and Saints were wrapping up Thursday Night Football to kick off Week 7 as Christian McCaffrey, Panthers running back, former first-round pick, has been traded to the San Francisco 49ers. Joining me to break down the deal, John Breech and Ryan Wilson and John Breech. What's up, fellas? How we doing?
I'm doing okay. Probably not as good as Christian McCaffrey. Do you think he's excited, Breech, to get out of Carolina and that steaming pile of football doo-doo?
He was probably on the phone with his travel agent 3 seconds after the trade was finalized and said, all right, just get me out of here. I'm gone. Send me to San Francisco. I don't want to ever speak of Carolina again.
The Panthers have actually announced the trade just literally 4 minutes ago. They posted it on their website. I'm trying to see if they actually included the compensation. They did not, but according to reports, it is a 2023 second-round pick, a 2023 third-round pick, a 2023 fourth-round pick, and a 2024 fifth-round pick, meaning the Panthers now have a bunch of picks in upcoming drafts, whereas the 49ers have none. Okay, first I'll ask you this. Who won the trade?
I'll start. The Panthers won the trade. And Breech, here, I'll just give you some things I scribbled down when Brinson and I were on HQ. So they have Jeff Wilson, who's averaging 4.9 yards per carry. They drafted Tyrion Davis-Price in the third round this year. They drafted Trey Sermon in the third round last year. He's no longer with the team. They drafted Elijah Mitchell in the sixth round. He's injured, but he'll come back, and he was really good before he got hurt. They have Tevin Coleman on the roster. And our guy Stephen O at Sportsline sent out
and Jared McKinnon, they signed him.
Jared McKinnon, thank you. And Stephen O at Sportsline, who runs all the simulations and is smarter than all three of us put together, said the win total for the 49ers, because they don't have real needs at running back, goes from 9.5 to 9.7. I think the Carolina Panthers, as Brinson noted, needs all sorts of help, draft and otherwise. So this is a huge gift for them. Christian McCaffrey wasn't going to help them win football games this year because they're straight up terrible. So I'm not sure. I understand. Kyle Shanahan wants to win the division. He thinks this is his opening. I get that. I'm not sure if Christian McCaffrey, who struggled to stay healthy, is worth the price of poker in this case.
And real quick, I thought you were listing every running back move the 49ers have made. Jerick McKinnon was one of Shanahan's first ones. He signed him to a 4-year, $30 million deal. Huge deal.
The Chiefs.
But now he plays for the Chiefs. Yeah, I thought Wilson was going down and listing everything.
I was just looking at the recent draft picks who went later than the second round. And
so they've invested a lot at this position. And so it is interesting to see them bring in Christian McCaffrey. But you know what, Ryan? I'll disagree with you. I'll say the 49ers win it. I mean, your logic is sound. Your reasoning makes sense. But this feels like a Ramsian move where the 49ers felt laughed at with the F them pick shirts. Now, John Lynch can wear an F them pick shirt because they just sent a bunch of picks. And this is that kind of move. This is, hey, maybe we're one player away from winning a Super Bowl. Well, we got that player now, and now we feel like we can win the Super Bowl.
Are they one player away, though?
I mean, they're tied for first place. And then
if everyone stops being injured, they're one player away, maybe. I don't think you're ever one running back away from winning a Super Bowl.
I think that's right.
I think McCaffrey can help put them over the top.
Yeah.
In a very weak, not a very weak, a watered down NFC, if he plays the entire season and he is as dynamic as we have seen him at times in an offense where they will utilize his skill sets about as well as you would expect. Remember, I mean, they lined up Deebo Samuel in the backfield. We're probably going to see Deebo lined up in the backfield and Christian McCaffrey split out wide or slide him in the slot. You can move him all over the place. They will maximize Christian McCaffrey's skill set much better than the Carolina Panthers did over the last few years. And he hasn't played much. He's still got some decent tread on his tires. The contract isn't ideal. But there's also not a lot of concern. You know, I mean, Ed McCaffrey, Christian's dad, played for Mike Shanahan, Kyle's dad. These guys know each other pretty well. And so, did John Lynch?
You want a fun fact about that fun fact you just gave us, Brinson?
John Lynch plays Stanford, so did Christian McCaffrey. All these people know each other really well.
Ed McCaffrey and Mike Shanahan were only together for one season in San Francisco, and the 49ers won the Super Bowl that year.
Oh, there you go.
1994.
What were they together in Denver? Am I crazy?
So, K-Tide 12 asked this in the comments. I mean, the NFC sucks this year, he says. Why not do whatever one can to increase your odds? I get it. The issue is, what if you spin out and lose in the first round of the playoffs? Is that considered a win? Because now, and Breech, here are the picks that the 49ers now have in the upcoming draft. They don't have the first because that was Trey Lance.
They have 1 7th-round pick, right?
They have 3 thirds. They had 3 thirds. They just traded one of them. Now they have 2 compensatory thirds left. They have a 4th, a 5th, and a 7th. So if you lose in the first round of the playoffs or don't make the playoffs, the trade obviously I don't think is worth it, because now you're facing long odds to get better quickly because you have no draft picks and you have a lot of money on the books tied up in Christian McCaffrey, among other people.
You play to win the game.
Well, currently right now, the San Francisco 49ers are sitting as the number 4 seed in the NFC. With the way that their draft picks slot out, and this is based on the current setup, right? They would be giving away, I believe, the 53rd pick, the 85th pick, and the 117th pick in this upcoming draft. When you take that value and add in just sort of a middling 5th rounder for next year, it equates to, this is very quick math in between this trade happening, us jumping on the video stuff, 195 points on the new trade chart. That is literally, I think it's right between 30 and 31. I said it wrong in HQ. So you're basically talking about if they stayed where they are, they exited fairly early in the playoffs, you'd be giving up the 31st pick of the draft. I'm okay doing that for Christian McCaffrey. Now, if you go on and you make a deep run, you're giving away like a middle of the second round pick, which I'm definitely okay with. If you collapse and you miss the playoffs, or just let me be clear, you're okay with giving up all this compensation just to win 2 playoff games and not get to the Super Bowl?
Well,
I mean, if Jaquiski Tart, I mean, it was fine to trade for Matthew Stafford once the Rams won the Super Bowl. So yes.
No, I just want to ask you.
I'm willing to take the chance. I don't think this compensation is that much.
Okay.
For a running back of McCaffrey's caliber, because you can totally. He is the perfect weapon for Kyle Shanahan. He complements Deebo Samuel now, because now Deebo's thinking, I don't have to take 10 carries a game. I can just hand that off to Christian McCaffrey, who is just
Jeff Wilson.
But Christian McCaffrey is just as good of a weapon, catching the ball, running the ball. And the thing is, you look at what the 49ers do with their running backs, and I think if there's one thing Kyle Shanahan would love to see more, is being able to design plays where the quarterback can throw the ball to the running back, and where he doesn't have to design something for Deebo Samuel in that sense, because 49ers running backs aren't catching passes. I think they have 19 total receptions on the year. Christian McCaffrey has more receptions than every 49ers running back combined.
Can I ask you a couple questions?
2022.
Yes.
Is that the difference? Is that what this offense is missing? Running backs catching passes?
I think it is. If Jimmy Garoppolo is struggling to throw downfield and you want to give him somebody to dump it off to, just take some pressure off of him.
Fair enough. No, I don't disagree with that. Another question.
Before you ask question. Okay, I want to just, if they people in the comments are getting up in arms on this. If they win the Super Bowl, obviously it's a good trade. Winning the Super Bowl they could end up being the number 1 seed in the NFC, and you could still lose the Super Bowl. So I don't think you want to judge it necessarily on the Super Bowl so much as like, how does the offense look? How does McCaffrey perform? Is he healthy? Does it improve Jimmy Garoppolo? Does it mitigate pressure on the quarterback with an offensive line that's banged up and lost Alex Mack?
That feels like you're looking for moral victories. I think in the NFL, you need to win a Super Bowl.
If they end up being the number 1 seed in the NFC after starting 3-3, then I think that was a good trade, even if they lose in the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah, but here, let's think this thing out a little further. So let's say they didn't trade for Christian McCaffrey and they win 10 games this year and they lose in the first round of the playoffs. Now they have these draft picks and they'll win on average 10 games the next 3 years. Let's say they win 12 games this year with Christian McCaffrey, lose in the first round of the playoffs. Now they're going to be on pace to win 8.5 for 9 games the next 3 years. So looking at it in that sense, costing yourself a game and a half per year on the back end, is that worth it? If the results are the same in year 1, for luck or otherwise.
I think it's Super Bowl or bust. That's what it comes down. You don't have to win the Super Bowl. You have to. If you get to the Super Bowl, lose, the trade pays off.
Right.
But if you do not make the Super Bowl, because you think about, if we had this conversation 2 days ago about how far do you think the 49ers are going to go this season? Are they going to win the division? Are they going to get to the NFC title game for the second straight year? And so think about what you would have said 2 days ago, and now what is their ceiling with Christian McCaffrey? Did it only go up 1 game? Because if you thought they're going to go to the NFC title game and now Christian McCaffrey only gets him one game further, then maybe you consider it not a great trade. But I do think if they make it to the Super Bowl,
I'm okay with it. It's
It is
like the
absolute.
Julio Jones trade with Thomas Dimitroff traded up and gave all that stuff for Julio Jones. They got to the Super Bowl. They were up 28-3 and they lost. I would have been okay with that. I was okay with it. That's fine. That's what the position you want to be in. The one other thing I want to ask quickly on the follow-up to Breech saying that the offense will open up with McCaffrey catching balls, and I don't disagree with that. Do you know how many games Christian McCaffrey played in 2021? Breech and Brinson?
Not a lot.
7.
He got injured early in the season, left. I would say 6.
7. Do you know how many he played in 2020?
I mean, not many.
5.
3.
I mean, how many touches did he have in 2019 when Ron Rivera was trying to save his job?
He had 287 rushes, and he had 116.
By the way, whoever's in the chat that's like saying like they're not running Deebo Samuel this year. He's averaging more rush attempts per game than he did last year. So you're just wrong.
He's averaging 8.9. Excuse me,
3.8 this year.
5.9 yards per carry. But yeah, my point is that I mean, he can't stay healthy, so that's also should be part of the math. But
well,
what?
Well, I mean, he wasn't healthy in 2020 or 2021 when after the Panthers ran him into the ground. He suffered some fluke injuries. I mean,
yeah, that should be a warning sign.
Well, I think that's a fair assessment. If he gets injured next week and is out for the next 6 weeks,
if he gets hurt and plays 3 games, and it's a really bad trade.
Yeah, but I'm saying there's an injury history there as well.
And that's part of the risk of making this trade.
Right. Yep.
It's like buying a car.
It's like buying a Ferrari. Exactly. Ferrari that's, has had work on it, but you're like, you know what? I got a Ferrari. And if I can drive it long enough to find a girlfriend and then it breaks down, who cares? And the girlfriend is the Super Bowl. I just did a Breech analogy.
That's a great analogy. Wait, if that works, then you win. Like if that's
that's what I'm saying. You win. You got the girlfriend.
Until
she sees the car is broken down.
I mean, look, the draft capital is substantial. I personally would not give it up for a running back. I kind of understand why if you're the 49ers, and again, you have to realize like John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have as much inside information on Christian McCaffrey as any franchise possibly could because of their connections to him through familial and collegial stuff.
What's the difference between those two words?
Well, collegial.
I don't know. Just putting you on the spot. Go ahead.
It's not funny.
The
Rams are in on McCaffrey as well, and so there's a little bit of jockeying there where you feel like you need to, you want to prevent, there's a little bit of prevent the Rams from getting it because you want to try to win your division. You want to try and make, you want to try and make a run in the playoffs. I would not give up that sort of capital for a running back.
But just to push back, do you think the Rams had any draft capital in the next 5 years to give up, or are they going to trade players?
I mean, the 49ers have as few as, the 49ers have all those comp picks in the third, but like,
yeah.
I mean, neither of those teams have a lot of draft picks because they traded for quarterbacks.
Yep.
My point being is that if I think Christian McCaffrey can be dynamic and explosive in this offense in particular, and I think that the two guys who are in charge of determining who's on the roster have a lot of inside information and feel comfortable trading for McCaffrey based on what they know. And like, you do a trade with another NFL team and you're sort of trying to, you've got to play a bit of a guessing game. Well, I feel fairly comfortable that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch can reach out through back channels and be like, what's like, is he healthy? Is he? And I don't think like Ed McCaffrey and Mike Shanahan, who I believe could get this information for them, are going to lie to, they're not going to they'll get an honest answer from those guys, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that there'll be some medical component to the trade anyway. So whatever you know or don't know, you're going to figure it out right quick when he shows up, right?
But he'll have to do a physical, yes.
Yeah.
But he's healthy right now.
Okay. We'll see. I think it's too much. But, I mean, if he's good, then it works out. Also, I think there's a recent history of the 49ers under Shanahan and Lynch doing some unconventional things with draft picks with Trey Lance. And unfortunately, he's injured too. So, that's hanging over it. And I think you mentioned on HQ.
And they also have a history of making trades.
Jimmy
Garoppolo, 2017. They traded for Emmanuel Sanders in 2019. And that one put him over the top and they got to the Super Bowl.
Is that who Jimmy Garoppolo overthrew in Miami?
On the final
yes.
offense possession for the 49ers?
Yes.
I believe so.
Now look, there's also a history of some guy who is the like Joe Williams they traded up for in the 4th round in 2017, total whiff. Redacted human being from 2021 in the 3rd round who they like were emphatic about getting. I won't say his name anymore because he.
Oh, I think I said his name earlier. The running back,
Trey Sermon.
Yeah.
But then Elijah Mitchell, 6th round pick. Now, again, I understand you can get a 6th round pick. You can get Elijah Mitchell in the 6th round. That is much cheaper than trading a bunch of picks for Christian McCaffrey. I do think Christian McCaffrey, when he's at the top of his game, is a totally different player than almost any running back in football.
He's an airback.
Thanks, Pete.
Yeah, I was just quoting Pete.
I know. If he's healthy, he will be a difference maker for that team, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's right. I don't think that's not even a crazy thing to say. And you mentioned on HQ, now you have sort of the ability to swap out McCaffrey for Debo, not on the field, but in terms of the actual positions they're playing. And I was thinking, Breech, if you get 11 Debo Samuels on your team, you're probably the best team in the NFL, and maybe that's the long-term plan of the 49ers.
I mean, that's what it sounds like. Kyle Shanahan's like, ooh, I have a wide receiver that can play running back. Now I just need a running back that can play wide receiver, and I'll have Kyle Shanahan bingo. And that's kind of what he has here. And he's not going to sleep at all for the next 72 hours. He's going to just be designing plays that have Christian McCaffrey and Debo Samuel on the field. I think one interesting thing here, though, is that this is essentially a 1-year rental. You're giving away all these draft picks. You have Christian McCaffrey under contract at minimum veteran salary this year, but then no guaranteed money left after that. So do you try and hammer out a new deal? Do you say, you know what, we'll just keep him for $11 million, even though the 49ers are already tight in salary cap space? So that's something you have to consider, because if you only keep him for 1 year, then you just gave away all those draft picks for an 11-game rental.
But if you keep him for more than 1 year, he ain't going to play for the veteran minimum. It's going to be the veteran maximum.
Well,
right?
he's under a contract next year for $11 million.
I thought you meant this year. Oh, so he's through 2020.
He has no more guaranteed money after 2022. So that opens up a situation where the 49ers could, I mean, they're not going to cut him, but they could cut him, owe him nothing. They could renegotiate his contract so that he has some guaranteed money, but is not making $11 million a year. So they'll have a lot of options after the season ends.
Who do you think the best team in the division is?
I think it's and I don't mean this like if everyone's healthy. I just mean if they get like the 49ers are really dealing with a ton of injuries.
Yeah.
I think it's the 49ers by a pretty wide margin if they get
you
got to get Armstead back, you got to get Bosa back, you got to get Trent Williams back. If they get those guys back, pretty comfortably the best team, I think. The Rams offensive line is a problem. Seahawks defense isn't very good. I mean, Kyler, we'll talk about Kyler and Cliff in a minute. They just scored the most points in their history of working together, and not to mention out.
Breech, who do you think is the best?
I agree with Brinson, the 49ers, but I don't think as wide of as a gap as he thinks it is.
Are you going to say that Eugene Cyril Smith the third is number 2?
Maybe.
I think the Seahawks might be number
E3. 2. How's that sound?
E3 is pretty good.
I'm going to call him E3.
I don't hate it.
Get that to stick. The Seahawks look good, except their defense doesn't look great, I guess. And Brinson mentioned the Rams' problems. The offensive line is hard to fix in the middle of the season because no one's going to trade you any good offensive linemen. So, but yeah, the 49ers definitely feel like the best team in the division.
Well, I also thought that CMC, and obviously we talked about F them picks, CMC would have been a huge addition for the Rams. They're trying to trade Cam Akers. CMC gives you a little quick outlet for Matthew Stafford on like passing that'll mitigate the pressure that he's receiving because this offensive line is a problem. And so
I might actually think it's worse, but only because the offensive line sucks so bad. So he's just basically a receiver. He can't run the ball. Like he can't compensate for a terrible offensive line as a running back.
He would mitigate the terrible offensive line by getting out and
I think he wouldn't be able to overcome the terrible offensive line.
Or he would get at pass patterns, and you quickly get him the ball in space.
That's expensive for.
Can you imagine if the Panthers called the Rams like, "All right, here's the 49ers' final offer. Do you think you can match it?" And the Rams are just like, "LOL. Have you seen? We have 2 picks in the first 5 rounds of this year's draft, guys.
We'll give you Matthew Stafford if you want him. We'll do that.
We got our Super Bowl with him.
Here are the new odds, by the way, on the NFC West. We already put those up, but San Fran minus 110. Rams plus 155, Cardinals 11-1, Seahawks 11-1. Who would you bet on there?
I'm going with E3. 11-1. Come on now. I mean,
Eh,
-110 isn't bad. I mean,
probably still 49ers.
And just for clarity's sake, the Niners are leading the division at 3-3. The Rams also at 3-3, but they lost the tiebreak because of that head-to-head. Seattle also 3-3, and now the Cardinals 3-4, I believe. So it's a dogfight. I mean, I would probably rather take the longer shot. But I do think San Francisco is the best team. But the health, and they're hosting KC. Super Bowl LIV rematch. That's not obviously not an easy game. But, do you think Christian McCaffrey plays this week? I would assume no.
What's today?
It was Friday now.
Today's Thursday, Friday. No, I don't think so. Robbie Anderson was dressed. Did he play on Thursday night?
He got like a few snaps. They went to he threw one deep pass to him.
Okay, so maybe he gets that sort of treatment, the Robbie Anderson treatment.
It's a little easier to come in as a running back, I think, than it is a wide receiver.
Yeah, I'm sure he's, he went to Stanford, so I'm sure he's no dummy. I just, that's a quick turnaround.
It more than likely his first game will be against the Rams after I think in week 8,
which is hilarious
because he played the Rams. He's going to play the Rams back-to-back games.
Mm.
Well, now this is not a throwaway point, but this is not why you do the trade or you make sure the trade happens, but it is at least an interesting aspect of it. Christian McCaffrey spent an entire week, game planning to go against the Rams, and just played him and saw what they like to do on defense in order to try to contain him. And as you point out, Ryan, he is a Stanford graduate, very smart individual, maybe able to provide some insight into Kyle Shanahan as to what the Rams might like to do. And Kyle Shanahan notably owns the Rams. I mean, if you're the 49ers and you somehow steal one from the Chiefs as a 2.5-point home dog, and then you beat the Rams and you're 5-3, you're in really, really good shape in that division.
But the flip side of that is that the Rams might be in first place after this week because the Seahawks play the Chargers. Chargers are favored. 49ers, as you mentioned, are underdogs to the Chiefs. So if they both lose, then the Rams are sitting at home, staying at 3-3, and now in first place.
Okay. Oh my God. You know what's great, Breech? See the smiling, charming face that Wilson's got on right now? We're going to spend a few more minutes with him recapping Cardinals and Saints, which we'll do on the YouTube feed. We're going to hang up. We're going to disappear. Go to the other stream. Billy's going to...
We're going to cross the streams.
We're going to cross streams. We're basically going to go Ghostbusters.
Yes.
So if you are listening, if you're watching, be prepared for this stream to close. We'll see you in the other stream in a few minutes. For Wilson, for Breech, I'm Brinson. Christian McCaffrey, no longer a Carolina Panther. Crazy world to be in. See you guys later.